Hello there, welcome to the business age. On today's episode, we'll look at building to solve Africa's pressing challenges through product development. We will be joined by two incredible product minds, and we will also spotlight two remarkable female entrepreneurs who are building digital solutions that respond directly to every African reality.
Entrepreneurs need to be very focused on solving the right problems, but also making sure that the problem that they're addressing is a wicked one.
By the time I was already in secondary school, I had the passion to be an entrepreneur. We had the course in secondary school about entrepreneurship, the benefit of self-employed. I feel like, wow, I want to be this person.
It's all around seeing what is happening and then feeling like you can do something about it.
How are great products built? And how you can solve problems in a way that will make an impact that people will love, but also can return value to your business or to your communities.
We start with Jide. He has worked across global and African markets, and he begins by telling us how should African entrepreneurs approach building digital products.
Product is interesting. I love coming to Kigali and to Rwanda, and one of the main products that I get is the kabanga sauce. And if I told somebody this is one of the best products out there, a tech person would be like, what are you talking about? But that's a great product. It is a product that was built to address a problem, right? Not only in Rwanda, but clearly across Africa, right? So the reason I bring that up is people use it all the time. People cannot do without it. People love it. People need it. That's what product is about. You're creating value. Product is about creating value. It's about designing the right things. It's about addressing the right problems. It's about making sure that your solution makes sense, right? And so entrepreneurs need to be very focused on solving the right problems, but also making sure that the problem that they're addressing is a wicked one. I can't have everybody trying to build a fintech company. You're no longer building a product. All you're doing is you're just trying to raise money and say, I've raised money. So in the grand context of things, product is about creating value, a ruthless focus on creating value for the customer, but also creating value for you, the company. It's a two-way street. If the company is not successful, the customer is not successful. So product, that's what product is. It's not a function. Is a set of principles. We talk about the product operating model. That's one of the things I'll talk about today. And that's the key. It's a set of principles that make sure that you're addressing the customer who has a problem, you're giving them the right solution, and you're making sure that they get value out of it.
And how would you assess the entire ecosystem, not only in Rwanda, because you've been in across different African markets. So how would you assess, maybe for different regions within the continents?
Africa, Africa is an entrepreneurial continent, right? I can't speak about North Africa. I haven't really done that much work there. But, you look at all the ecosystems. You go to West Africa, of course, right? You have Nigeria, Lagos, basically the tech capital of Africa, although my South African friends in Cape Town will argue about that. You go to Nairobi, right? Nairobi is one of the most vibrant product ecosystems in Africa, right? In fact, there's a reason why you see a lot more expats there building, because it's such a suitable environment to go and build if you're on the continent. Kigali, Rwanda, I've always said Rwanda they need to say more about, this is a place where you can do proof of concepts, right? It's a small environment, but it's infrastructure-wise, it's perfect, right? So you can figure things out, do some testing, and then expand outside. Right? So East Africa, vibrant. West Africa, they get a lot of money because of their size. You go to Southern Africa, right? Zambia is starting to get very, a lot of notice because they have an infrastructure there too that's encouraging to startups. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Yes, there are challenges, but go to Silicon Valley today. There are challenges there too. So the ecosystem is looking really good, and I'm excited to be in it.
And as you said, just looking at some of the setups that are coming in from not only Rwanda, but just across the continent, health tech is also picking up. We're looking at all these other sectors. They're also leveraging technology, coming up with innovative solutions. When you engage the different entrepreneurs behind these ideas, how hungry would you say are they to find the right solutions to some of the pressing challenges that we have?
They're very hungry. Well, sometimes I think there's a signaling that they follow. So sometimes it's, okay, how much money have you raised? And so that becomes the metric, right? Oh, we raised $20 million. Everybody's like, oh my God, these guys are successful. And the truth is that's not the measure. And so that's what we preach. That's what we talk about is the goal is not to raise money. The goal is to figure out the right problems and the right solutions, and you build from there. So that's what product is about. It's incremental. This stuff is not easy. It's messy, right? So the conversation, if I was talking to startups, I said, look, just take it easy, right? Make sure that we call it product market fit. Make sure that you find a fit and don't do what everybody else is doing. Like, kind of go, discover what's going on. Go and talk to customers. They won't tell you what the problem is. You will draw from your conversations from them what the problem is. Okay? So my conversation with them will be, oh, come on, you have to do that work. You have to go and immerse. You cannot sit on your computer and ask ChatGPT, what problems are out there? And then you build on that. No. And then when you do understand what the problem is, don't now say, well, I need so much money to bring engineers to build this or to bring designers. No. You can do this incrementally without having to raise so much money. And I think that's the one part that I'll tell people. Don't worry about the money. Worry about the problem. Worry about your solution.
And of course, in university, I continued medical school. After graduating, I met with my co-founder, and he introduced me about the opportunities in the health sector, how we can get money from it. That's why we get interest to go deep in business. Yeah, it was in 2017, and we started. There was the market opportunity, of course. Medical professionals were lacking where they can get trainings because it was mandatory to train themselves and get certificates and be able to renew their license every year. And there was nowhere they can get those trainings. Me and my co-founder, we decided how can we plan a private company which can give this kind of trainings. We started inviting health professionals to come in over the weekend for training. And after that, we realized many are not attending because they are working from far, they are having weekend busy schedule. And we decided how we can move from face-to-face training to e-learning platform.
I can say that I started it as a form of business. I just grew up in that ecosystem because my mother used to be like in hospitality, but in an indirect way. When I was young, we used to see like people coming around, want to visit different places. And my mother used to do that, like taking them around. And I grew up like seeing that like in the family. And when I was finishing my high school, I got a job. And like working for someone was really good because that was a new experience. But I didn't like how it was at the end because I didn't get exactly what I was looking for as an individual, as a person that wants to grow from one level to another. And I happened to meet my colleague whom we share the same perspectives, like related to business. That's how it started. I feel like what can we do like in the sector? How can we make this really formal? Like by engaging especially the local people like in our community.
There was different obstacles and the challenges in the journey. And as I told you, we started having face-to-face training, and we realized many are not coming. Others are complaining, it's time-consuming, it's money-consuming. Imagine a person from overseas to come to Kigali for one-day training. That's costly because it has to pay accommodation, lunch, and other things. It was a challenge for us because that person can't come back. There was no capital, of course. We were using people's money. What they are paying, that's what we are giving. And later on, we're lacking mentorship. Someone who can help us to understand what we are doing, how we can leverage with what is existing and how can get benefit from it. After that, of course, why we decide to move from face-to-face training to digital or e-learning platform, there was technology challenge for other people. They are not familiar with the online courses, they are not believing it's Leo. That's the challenge we have been facing. And later on, after, like in 2019, we were supported by the first incubation program to 50 startups. It took us in part of the acceleration program for 9 months. They gave us training, support in technology where they're giving us ICT people or those developers to help us to accelerate our platform, to create more courses and to make them visible. That's the way the journey started to become very easier, and up to there I can say that we are thriving, we are not surviving. People are not, now we are having 10,000 customers on our platform. That's a huge number if you compare how people now are familiar with the e-learning, online courses, they're able to get their certificate. We are now having accreditation from regulatory bodies working under the Ministry of Health. People are now understanding what they're doing and they're valuing our impact in the health system.
We have like a marketplace where you can find different solutions in hospitality and tourism, ranging from like all the services you need in tourism. We have them. Like you can find like accommodation, transport, and then even tour packages, which I feel are the most services that are available in hospitality. But we have like something unique called virtual reality that we feel like it's something unique we can bring in the industry as a way of empowering and also enhancing how the services are offered. When you think about it, it's not really easy, but it's easy when you start. Because when you're trying to think about it, you feel like it's a very, very long journey. You don't even know where you can start. But it's like you are building a house, so you need to start with the foundation. And when you're done with it, that's when you say, like, what's going on? What's going to happen next? And I can say that it's more of believing in yourself and having the right team that will just empower you and help you to do what you want to do. And also move from your comfort zone and be like, this is not really easy, but I can have some inspiration from other people. You can even try to aspire yourself, because it's all around. It's all around seeing what is happening and then feeling like you can do something about it.
What sets apart the startups that get it right? The ones that not only build strong products, but also attract the investments they need to grow.
Ideally, if you want to see a startup that has done things right, they have a thesis, a hypothesis. It's an assumption, it's not a fact that there's potentially a problem out there. Let's use M-Pesa. The mindset there was probably like, okay, we can tell that there are a lot of people who don't have access to banks. And for some reason, they just can't participate in this economy. We need to go and validate whether that's true. And so they go out there, they validate, hey, why aren't you using a bank? And people say, oh, it's too far. My grandmother's too illiterate, so that's why she doesn't use it. Those kinds of things. And the M-Pesa folks are now saying, okay, this is not just about banks. This is about just access and ease of use. And that's how M-Pesa was born. And you start slowly. Maybe you use 100 people, 1,000 people, you test, you get some insights. Okay, we think we understand the problem this way. But there's some additional things we need to know. But there's 1,000 people who are already using your product. You go and tweak some things immediately to those 1,000 people. Hopefully they are telling other people, hey, I have this thing on my phone. And that's how you build product. Now what's happened is many times, by the time you get the first 1,000, then investors, people are telling you, oh, you need to go and raise money in order to get to 100,000. And we don't believe that. We believe that there is opportunity for you to get to 100,000 without having to infect your process capital. Okay. I'm not saying that you don't need capital. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that in order to build a great product, you need to focus on the problem as opposed to looking for capital, right? So it's, look, there are people who will watch this and they're like, Chidi's talking nonsense. That's fine, right? I'll argue with them anytime. But many of the successful startups that you see out there, this is how they did it. This is how they did it.
The discipline that comes with knowing what money to take. Not everybody.
Yes,
or
100%.
that comes to you.
100%. It's patient capital, right? Patient capital is we will work with you over a period of time, as opposed to you have 3 months. If you don't make it to $1 million a month in revenue, we're out, right? That will put pressure on you. You may start solving other problems that you're not supposed to be solving, okay? And that's why some of our best startups have folded, because they scale to, raise $100, $200 million, and they don't exist today, right? But there are companies that are doing extremely well today because they took their time to make sure that their foot was in the ground, they were immersed in their market, their customers loved their product, okay? Many of us, we have iPhones. We love our iPhones. Why? Because, right? So that's part of the conversation.
Okay, and when there's this whole conversation around, we're all keen to know the next unicorn that will come out of Africa, the next unicorn that will come out of Kigali. But when you look at the ecosystem, for example, in Rwanda, most of the startups, they're still in the early stage. There's still a lot of maturity, that's still a lot of experience that also needs to come. So how do you view where we are in relation to the next unicorn coming out of Rwanda, the next unicorn coming out of Africa?
Yeah, so it's almost like, the English Premier League. We're just playing the games now, right? We're not in the playoffs yet, right? So that's what's happening. Things are being sorted out. There's so many startups, but some of them will start to kind of bubble up. Why? Because they have the best teams, because they have figured out what problems are truly unique, right? Not just for Rwandans, I'll keep saying that. They have understood that this is an African problem, right? And so it's going to take a while, but, I've seen some interesting conversations where companies are solving some very interesting problems. So I feel like the playoffs are coming soon, right? You're going to start to see the big boys and the big girls who are doing some really good work, and they will start to get some attention. Irembo, people like to talk about Irembo, and I've said Irembo is a company that, as a startup, they found themselves in a really great niche, which is the public sector, so, supporting the public sector. And so if you ask me, that's a company that I feel has, that has a lot of, they're going to be very interesting because they're doing work now outside of Rwanda. That's the key. Irembo doesn't grow without doing work outside Rwanda, right? There's just no growth there. So their growth is outside of Rwanda, and that's why they're doing very well.
Okay, and for AI, looking at even data analytics, how do all these emerging technologies, how do they come into play, especially when you're looking at products, just innovation within the products themselves that are coming out of Africa?
So AI and data analytics, these are all enablers. They're not products. And so it's disingenuous for a startup to continuously say we are an AI-enabled health tech company, or we're an AI-enabled agri-tech company. It's like saying we're an internet-enabled company. AI has fundamentally changed the game in terms of the level of technical capability that you can have, right? But it is not a product. It is an enabler. And I make that point to say it is the people who use AI or data analytics the right way that integrate these technologies into their world and into their workflows and do it well. Those are the ones that will succeed. I'll give you an example. I'm an entrepreneur. I've had this idea that I wanted to work on. I won't say what it is, but one of the challenges I had was that I couldn't find an engineer who would work with me. I need to get paid, or, I don't want to leave my job and things like that. So I struggled to find what I'll call a tech co-founder. AI is now my tech co-founder, right? So it's not the product, but it's allowing me to do what so I've built my prototype. I've built my MVP. I'm able to go to customers and say, is this solving your problem, as opposed to waiting to find an individual who will do that with me. So that's what AI and data analytics does. It's these things they jet fuel your organization. They provide efficiencies and make you such an effective team, but they are not the product. So people need to stop saying we use AI to do this. Everybody uses AI, right? I have a 15-year-old daughter. She uses AI, right? And I'm not saying that to trivialize it. I'm saying everybody has access to AI. So it's no longer a unique aspect of your business, right? You don't have to say you're using AI, but it is absolutely necessary for you to be successful today.
And how wide would you say, you just touched on it, but the skill gap that we have on the continent, engineers having someone who you can sit down, share your idea with, and they can be able to bring it to life?
We have a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent, a lot.
And the talent drain that we constantly
So
hearing about.
one of the challenges with talent is, if you have a lot of good talent, sometimes the value that is assigned to that talent doesn't quite match up. So for instance, product managers in Africa, we have some really great people, and that's what we talk about, who know how to build products. I'm just going to be honest. In Africa, they don't get paid the way they should get paid. So that's why if Microsoft comes in and says, we're going to pay you 6, 7x, they're going to Microsoft. God forbid Microsoft says, actually, not only are we going to pay you 6, 7x, we're going to fly you over to Washington and you will live in Washington. We'll sponsor your visa. So some of the best product people that Africa has are working abroad, and they're working for some of the big companies, the Googles, the YouTubes, the Canvas of the world, right? So we have talent. We just need to make sure that we value that talent. Give them the opportunities to do what they need to do, And so, some of them are here not because, some of them stay, not because they want to, but because they don't have a choice. You give them a choice, they will leave.
Okay, and earlier you said how Rwanda is a proof of concept. And how crucial is it to have, for an entrepreneur to be in an environment where they feel just a conducive environment, where they even feel supported? So how crucial is it, and to what extent do you see Rwanda doing that for the entrepreneurs?
It's absolutely crucial. So if somebody says, okay, Rwanda is like a big accelerator, or Kigali, let's use big accelerator for entrepreneurs. That is a sell, right? Because that means, okay, I have constant power, right? I have access to the internet. I have a business and tech environment that is supportive, right? I can start my business in a day. I have access to the internet. I have a minister of ICT that understands this world. They are actively involved. This is the environment you want to be in, as opposed to maybe your own country where that public sector doesn't really understand it or haven't put the right people in place. So this is the opportunity. When I say proof of concept, I say they should look at themselves as, this is where you build your prototypes, your MVPs, you test things out, you use it, so your issue isn't, okay, I need to go and get a generator so that my engineers can work, right? No, you're focused on, let me figure out what the problem is. And then when the time comes, you start blazing your trail outside of Kigali. Shoot, sometimes you can even just say, okay, I'm going to leave Kigali now and I'll move back to my country. I have what I need. Maybe even my company's still based in Rwanda. The infrastructure is still in Rwanda, but I'll move away.
We also spoke to Christian Idiode, who has years of experience in the Silicon Valley, and through Inspire Africa, his flagship initiative, he's now pouring that knowledge back into the continent, creating spaces where young African innovators don't just learn to build apps, but learn to think like product leaders.
The Inspire Africa tour is essential for the work we're doing on the continent. I think there are a couple of things that are important. The first is discovery, an opportunity to learn and understand what it means to solve problems in Africa, understanding what it means to get funding to solve a problem, the challenges in the ecosystem. So there's a lot of work we do in understanding not just the players, but the challenges and what it actually will take to improve the ecosystem. The second part of it is building community. There's a big part of this work that is all about reinforcing the good work already done in the ecosystem, whether it's connecting, upskilling talent, whether that's enabling technology, whether that's in networking. So you're elevating everybody in the community that is focused on using technology, building good products within the society, and you're leveraging their networks to continue to build community. And lastly, there's some aspect of this that is heavily rooted in evangelism, in telling the story of how technology can be used for good, how people can get better in Africa using technology to solve problems. There's evangelism about how are great products built, and how you can solve problems in a way that will make an impact, that people will love, but also can return value to your business or to your community. So the toy is a big essential piece of promoting what good product work looks like, enabling people to be skilled with not just understanding it, but with the actual skill sets they need to solve problems.
Okay, very interesting. And with the product tour, you've been to Kenya.
Yes.
Now you're in Kigali. You're also traveling to Zambia as well as Uganda. When you're engaging with these different players within the ecosystem, what do you get from them? How keen are they in solving challenges for the continent?
You know, we don't want to make an assumptions about the things we know or do not know. So there's a heavy on getting out of our space, on the ground discovery for us. In Kenya, I'm out with a company on the streets, meeting with their customers, hearing about the challenges their customers have and how their products are helping their customers. And so there's some advising and coaching, but most importantly, some learning. And then with all the ecosystem players in all these different communities, we're understanding their challenges in accelerating the knowledge of people around how to build products. So we want to elevate a good product management discipline. We want to elevate a good customer-centric discipline in Africa. We want to elevate good use of technology, the acumen within people. So a lot of this is, there is a big part of it that is learning, but the idea of Inspire Africa is that when we infuse within the ecosystem the same knowledge, the same mindset, the same culture that has created some of the best companies in the world, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Tesla, in the minds of people in Africa, we want to believe we can do the same.
And what are some of the most, when you're looking at even your role, even your own experience, even the engagement when you're having with the different entrepreneurs, what are some of the common challenges? And what, if you were to give them maybe 2 or 3 pointers of what to do differently, what could you have done? What can you tell them?
I mean, here's the reality. There's not a Silicon Valley in Africa. There's not an ecosystem of successful entrepreneurs that have successfully built companies that are constantly innovating, that a young person can go and learn from. There is not a successful layer of good coaches, good trainers, good models that a whole generation can look to say, hey, I now know I can be the Amazon of Apple. There are people, my person that taught me built this. We have very few unicorn companies, lots of them in fintech. And so what happens when you see that? Everybody wants to do fintech, right? So the more you see success in a specific segment, the more people will do that. In Africa, one of the biggest things we learned early on is that to solve any problem in Africa, you have to solve many problems. We have a lot of failure in the public sector in providing a platform for entrepreneurship, you know, in like parts of West Africa where they don't even have power or access to water. There's nobody building technology in the West that says, is my power going to work today? You know, that's not the problem they're trying to solve. Or will I have roads logistically to ship things to somebody? Will I have access to infrastructure and utilities? Just some of those basic things that make it enabling for people to solve problems. So if you really want to solve a problem in Africa, you have to solve very many problems along the way. And so what happens is many people focus on the symptoms than actually focus on cures. Many people focus on making money on the problem than actually solving the problem. So you can see this dynamic where, you know, if the roads are bad, what do? We buy a bigger car. Nobody says we must fix this road. You know, if you don't have power, what do we say? We buy generators. Nobody says let us fix the power. You know, if the line is too long, we find a way to go around the line. If there's traffic, we get into a motorcycle. You see, there's a whole mentality that to solve a problem is very hard. So we're just going to ease the pain than find a cure. And so one of the things we are doing in Africa is we are understanding all of those challenges and trying to figure out how we can create a more enabling environment. So public-private sector, if we can infuse good technology in the government, modern practices, the government can be better to support that. 2, we want to upskill the talent, you know, because we are losing our talented people to better jobs in other parts of the world. So they are not working in Africa to solve problems. And 3, we want to build really an environment where we start to solve our own problems rather than making money on them or working on the symptoms.
That's all we had on today's episode of The Business Age. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are with me, Naringwa Fianamothoni.